68. You're at 68?
Yeah. That's page 68, you mean? Right?
No.
Oh, sorry.
The 60.
numbers.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, so let me just give a little introduction. Welcome everybody. We're learning Kuzari. We asked questions about how the world was, how do the Jewish people, how do we calculate the years? How did, we start counting from 5,785 years ago is when the world was created. And we discussed this whole issue. And now, and the king gave many answers. The rabbi gave many answers, and the king was happy with it. So he says, "Okay, 68." He says, "I'm happy with what you told me till now. If I have more time with you, I'd like to have more proof. But shuv el gilgul dvarecha." So go on to explain the question. Ech nikva benafshochem adavar hagadol hazeh. How do you believe this great thing, שיהיה לבורא הגופות והרוחות והנפשות? How do you believe that the creator of the spirits, the souls, הסכלים, המלאכים, the angels, the spiritual beings, אשר נתעלה והתקדש, who has gone beyond everybody and everything, מהשגת השכלים, כל שכן החושים, and God cannot be understood in our senses. We can't, something we can grasp. So how do you believe, חיבור עם הבריאה הזאת, how do you believe that God has a relationship, a connection with this creation, הנבזה והמגונה בחומרה, that is materialistic, that is low life. אם היותה מעורר התפעלות בצורתה. And if you want to say that human beings are incredible beings, they're so advanced and they're so, they're such a high level, and therefore they can have a connection with the Creator. If that's what you want to say. Right? אם היא הייתה מעורר התפעלות בצורתה, you want to say humans are incredible, their wisdom, their advancement, their development. כי קטן שברמסים יש חוכמה מפליאה. But also in a little ant, a little creation like a bug, an ant, there's so much wisdom. אף מעבר למה הדעת משגת. Even a human mind cannot grasp. So how do you believe that there's such a thing as prophecy, that God speaks to you? How do you believe that God is involved with you? It's the same way you don't see a human being talking to an ant. A normal person doesn't have a conversation with an ant because it's two different levels. So why would you think the distance between the creator of the world and the human being are much more vast than the creation of the ant and the human being? And therefore the distance is so big and so great. Like the philosopher said, God doesn't know you, God doesn't care about you, He doesn't hear your prayers, He doesn't see what you do. Remember, the philosophers, they don't believe in the creator. The world always existed. What is God? Some kind of spiritual being that is completely detached from this world, has no connection to the world, not involved in any way. They believe in some kind of God, a spirit, they call it God, some kind of spiritual thing, but it's not involved, doesn't care, doesn't see you. But the king told the philosopher, if that's your answer, then I'm out of here. You didn't accept that answer. The king didn't like that answer. That God has no relationship with you, doesn't care about you, doesn't see you, doesn't hear your prayers, He doesn't need anything. If you're saying that God needs something, then you're saying that God is lacking. So He doesn't need anything you do, He doesn't see you, He doesn't hear your prayers, He doesn't care about you. Same way, you step on an anthole, big deal. So that's what human beings are to God. But he's asking this question. I can't understand How can you believe that there's such a thing as prophecy? Okay? And this is the big question. So, comes along the rabbi. Bidvarecha zeh. So now we're in 69. Amar Chaver, the rabbi is going to answer the question, which is a good question. Is God involved with people? Does he have anything to do with us? Or is he beyond and way, detached from us? Amar Chaver, bidvarecha zeh lo utzrachti bidvarim rabim להשיבך. Thank you for your question, because in your question was the answer. אתה מייחס זאת החוכמה, right? Sorry. So he said, you answered it. Ha'im meyaches. Let me ask you a question, says the rabbi. You already answered the question yourself. You said it can't be that God is involved with people because of their great wisdom. Because in an ant, there's so much wisdom. There's so much knowledge and wisdom in an ant. We don't know how to create an ant. There's so much knowledge and wisdom. And therefore, where do you think that wisdom comes from for the ant? Does it come from the stars, the moon? Who created the ant? Who made that wisdom? It's the Creator. If God created everything, so he has a connection to everything, and therefore obviously there's levels, and the human beings, he speaks to them. Right? It makes perfect sense. Who created this wisdom? Who created this ant? Right? So he says, it must be that God, who created everything, also gives everyone what they need. So who created it? Is it the sun and the moon? Who created the ant? The world. So the king says, Amar Kuzari, it's nature. The ant, the world was created by nature. Okay? So nature is who created the ant and all the animals. Why do you have to say God created the world? It's enough to say the laws of nature. You don't need God. That's what the philosophers say. Amar Chaver, umahu ateva. And what is that nature? Who is this nature that created the world? What do you mean? Nature created the world. Right? Okay, fine, you're going to say that nature created. Can you define for me what makes nature into the laws of nature? What made it happen? Right? Why is there gravity? Why is there a law of gravity? Kuzari, I'll explain to you. From what I heard, what is nature? From the people that understand science, hu koach mehakochot. It's the force she'en anu yodim ma. We don't know what it is. Aval min hastam melumadim. No, the philosophers know. The wise people know. Okay, we don't know exactly what nature is. We don't have to define it exactly. But the wise philosophers and the scientists, and they know. They 100% know. Okay? Amar Chaver, let me tell you something, King. Yediatam bo ki yediatenu. Exactly what they know, we know. Okay? And let me explain to you. I'm going to define for you what the philosophers call nature. הגדיר אותו פילוסוף כי הוא עיקרון והסיבה אשר בה ינוע וינוח הדבר אשר הוא בהם, The philosophers explain that the rule is it's the reason behind, it's the force of development, of growth that exists within creation, that everything is always moving towards embetterment, towards development, towards growth. That's the laws of nature. There's a constant expanding development that's taking place. Movement. We know that from even in the table, there's particles that are moving. There's a constant movement in creation. So that's the laws of nature, is this development, this movement. Right? And okay, so says the rabbi, the scientists, they don't know more than us. And let me tell you something about the scientists. They don't know why. They only know how. How they know that how a plant grows, because it has this character, this quality of growth. Okay, very nice. But what makes that happen? There's cells that give orders. Okay, and why do the cells give orders? And how are these orders like heard? Okay, it's nature. So you understand, you don't know how, you only know why. And this is a big question, right? Scientists don't even know, they can't explain a ray of light. They don't know what it is. So what did Aristotle say is nature? Is the reason that makes everything be in movement. We're not talking about mechanical movement, but we're talking about the essence of the creation. But what is the cause for these changes? That's nature. Okay? Obviously, we say that Hashem created everything, and He continues giving it life to be created, and He gives life to the laws of nature, and all of the laws of nature and all the world exists because of the power, the strength that God gives Him. But the world, God is not the world. Right? God is much more than that, than nature. So now we are in 74. Amar Kuzari. So basically, what you're saying, says the rabbi, the king repeats repeats the answer to the king of what he just heard. So basically, what you're saying, if I'm correct, כאילו הוא אומר, as if you are saying, כי הדבר שינוע מעצמו וינוח מעצמו יש לו סיבה. You're saying that something that is moving on its own and growing and developing, and the reason for that is nature. Is that what you're saying? When you're saying that, what does that mean, that nature has a reason? Everything has a reason that brings it to grow and to develop and to be what it is. The reason is nature. So you're basically saying the same words. You're stating facts. Why does water boil at 100 degrees Celsius? There's no scientific explanation why. They call it nature, but you didn't answer anything. Nature, the rule of nature is, right? So the king says, the rabbi says, yes, exactly. Amar Chaver. That's what he means. אמנם הוא הרבה לדבר דיוקים והבחנות, נעשה במקרה, נעשה בטבע. It's true that the philosopher, he adds all kinds of explanations and fancy words and things that are shocking, but what they're saying is basically the same thing. They know nothing. They don't know the reasons of the laws. They don't know who's responsible for the laws. So everything they say is to impress people. They say it in a very sophisticated way. So when you hear them, you say, wow, they know something I don't know. But really, they know exactly what you know. They know how to explain how. They don't know how to explain why. Right? They're not saying anything. They don't understand the root. What is the root of the laws of nature? So with all due respect to philosophers, everything they know, we know. Everything that they're saying is facts. They're not giving explanations. It's hard for people to hear. It's hard to accept. Philosophers is important to develop, to learn. But the bottom line is they have no idea without the belief in God. So the king says, the king now has a revelation. He has a revelation. אמר הכוזרי, אני רואה אם כן, שמטעים אותנו במונח הזה. They've lied to me. They've tricked me. They've tricked me with their words. הופכים אותנו משתפים עם האל. When they say nature is so smart, but really, it's the creator. The creator is so smart. So the king has this revelation right now. I've been lied to. I've been tricked. I thought, like you said, no, they have the answers. They have the answers. They know how to explain what nature is. Sorry, they don't. They have no idea. They're just as smart as you when it comes down to it. They have fancy words. They have explanations of all the laws, how it works. They could expand on that. Great. But they have no idea why. They have no idea what is the force, what is the root of everything. Wow. And the king is furious. And it's confusing. Because when they say nature is so smart, that's wrong. Because who put the wisdom into the nature? Right? They don't know the source. Who made nature? Why does a seed make a plant? They don't know. A tree. Why does it make this tree, not that tree? So basically, they've tricked us, and they say there's a source that organizes everything, and they call it nature. But really, it's the creator of the world. And they call it nature, which is distance, which has no expectations from us, there's no guidance, there's no creator. Remember, the philosophers say the world always existed. And it doesn't change the fact that God created nature. Hashem hu Elohim. Forces of nature are called Elohim. Our forces are called El is power. Amar HaChaver. So the after the king had this revelation, and he realized he's been lied to, and he realized that this is really terrible, that he's been fooled. Nachon, and the rabbi says, yes, you're right. אמנם יש ליסודות ולשמש ולירח הכוכבים פעולות כחימום וקירור. It's true that the sun and the moon has certain qualities of heating or making it cold, or rain makes it wet or drying, whatever it is. אך לא שייך לייחס להם בזה חוכמה אלא כוח טבעי. But you can't think that the laws of nature, that nature is smart, that nature has the ability to think, right? מתן צורות, קביעת מידות ושיעורים, הוצאה אל הפועל, כל מה שיש בו כוונה וחוכמה. They don't have intention, they don't have wisdom. לא יוחס אלא חכם. Only the creator, God, has wisdom. יכול, קובע מידות וסיורים ושולט, to control, to decide, to make choices. וקורא לגורמים המתקנים את החומר וחימום וקירור וטבע, כל עוד אינו מייחס להם חוכמה. So, as long as you don't think that they don't have their own desire, their own will, all of the forces of nature, right? And you want to call the laws of nature, fine, but you cannot Kashem, the same way, שאין מייחסים לאיש ולאישה בהתחברם את יצירת הוולד, the same way, you don't think that a man and a woman that come together and make a child, you don't think that they created the child. You don't think they are creators. כי שניהם אינם אלא עוזרים לחומר המקבל צורת האדם. ואילו הצורה עצמה ניתנת מאת צר הצורה החכם. Same way a man and a woman create a child. You don't think that they are creators. Why? Why don't you think they are creators? Because taking certain materials with a man and a woman, if it's a seed and an egg, right? And creating something about it, that's not true creation. It's just bringing out from potential into practice something that existed. But they did not, that's not true creating, right? So therefore, everything in this world, even us as human beings, we are not creators. We just take material and we create something from it. We are not creators. And therefore, and God puts the soul in. God puts the personality in. God puts the right. God puts everything into the person. Like it says, there's three partners to a human being: a man and a woman and God. And each one gives a part. ולכן אל תרחיק את האפשרות להראות רשמי עניינים אלוהיים נכבדים בשפע הזה התחתון כשהם חומרים נכונים לקבל אותם. וזה שורש האמונה ושורש המרד. But there is godly impressions. There is godliness everywhere because God created the world. And that is the root of the faith in God, is that God created the world and that God's involved in the world. And that is the root of the belief in serving God. And it's also the root in the belief of idol worshiping. What does that mean? It's true, nature is full of incredible laws of movement. But they work. They're not smart. Right? And actually nature is the opposite, is stupid. Why does nature allow a righteous person falls on a banana peel and also a wicked person? So nature is not smart. It doesn't have intentions. Right? It's automatic. So you're shocked, the king. You're shocked. How could it be God actually connects to people, to human beings, to the lowlifes? But you should know, all of creation, all of existence of life is from God. Also human beings and also the ant and everybody. And there's levels, as we spoke about before. There's stones and plants and animals and human beings, and then the Jewish people. And the Jewish people are the highest level of creation, the Jewish nation, and they receive prophecy. So what the philosopher calls nature is what we call the revelation of the order of God in the world on different levels. And also prophecy is part of that nature. It's a miracle nature, it's something that's incredible, but it's still part of nature. God created man in a way that he could have prophecy. So you asked me, how could it be there's such a thing as prophecy? I'll answer you. How could it be such a thing as an ant? So you answered me, the ant is nature, and I'm telling you that that the creator of the world, he made nature. Okay? Because he guides it. He gives it life. He organized everything. And this is the way it works. So as far as God is concerned, there's no difference between prophecy and an ant. It's just levels. Okay? So then he says, and you should know, the fact that there's godliness in the world is the root of prophecy and the root of rebelling against God. And this brings us back to the king's dream that he keeps having over and over. He's having a dream and God says, I want your actions. I want your intentions. I'm happy about your intentions, but I don't want your actions. Actions that are not guided from God with all the good intentions are what we call idol worshiping. There's an amazing midrash, and I would love to share it with you about about Parshat Lech Lecha, about Avram Avinu. Maybe I'll say it at the end because I want to make it through to the end of this section, and then maybe I'll go back to that. So the king says, how could it be that the same root for faith, for belief in God, is also the root for rebelling against God and creating idol worshipping? Like the Rambam says, idol worshipping came because people were searching for God, but they weren't searching hard enough. They were lazy. You think these people are stupid that they're bowing down to the sun? Oh, these primitive pagans. No, they were very smart. They could see that there's godliness in the sun. And they were serving the godliness that was in the sun, detached from everything else. If there is a minister of a king, if a king has a minister, I don't give him respect. I don't give respect to the minister of the king, the right-hand man of the king. I don't bow to him and say, and act like in a very respectful way. What's the answer? It makes perfect sense, idol worshiping. The answer is, if the king is standing right next to the minister, do you bow down to the minister? Everybody is standing before the creator of the world. He's here. And he said, do not serve my servants. So we don't do it. Now we'll explain. Right? In other words, basically, the same thing that could bring you to believe in God, to have faith in God, is the same thing that could bring you to rebel against God. If you understood correctly what God wants from you, and you do it the way God said, then you are serving God. But if you have a desire to be close to God like you did, and you're taking sacrifices, it's idol worshiping. The same desire to get close to God could bring you to serve Him or could bring you to rebel against Him. Do you understand? It's a fine line. And if you had a misunderstanding of what nature is, you're rebelling against God. Okay? As we said, and that's why the Torah is called the drug of life. And we'll get there in a minute. Amar Chaver. So he said, okay, the Torah is called the drug. It's either a drug of life or a drug of death. Use it correctly, you will live. Use it wrong, you will die. And now we'll explain. Next. So what does that mean, asked the king, that the same root for faith is the same root for rebelling against God? Why? Because to know how to serve God is not in human abilities to know. You can't know, you can't come up with your mind with understanding of how do you need to serve God. You have a strong desire, but how to do it? You don't know how to, okay, I want to serve God. How many sacrifices? When? What time? And what place? What do you have to prepare for it? The only way to know how to serve God, the only way to find God is if God finds you. Everyone knows the story of Avram Avinu looking for God. He's looking, asked the sun, he asked the moon. When he gave up, God said, I'm here. When he maximized his ability and his efforts to try to get close to God, and he said, I give up, that's when God said, I'm here. And I'll tell after the story, hopefully we'll have time. And that's the only way, by prophecy, and the only way is to know it's not something that could come from astrology or all kinds of spiritual ideas or all kinds of sacrifices or incense or all kinds of these things. And he says, let me explain to you, I'll tell you a story. So he says, let me tell you a story. A parable will help you understand. In other words, the mitzvahs, how to serve God. We not only believe that God created the world. We not only believe that God is involved in the world. We also believe that God tells us how to serve Him. He gives us the mitzvahs. And you could never come up with mitzvahs on your own. Right? There are mitzvahs that make sense. It's true. But there are so many mitzvahs that we don't understand. Tzitzis. Why 4? Why not 3 or 5? Or, okay, would I know I need to celebrate Pesach? How should I celebrate it? How much time? What should I eat? What do you eat? When do you eat it? Okay, and on. Sukkot. How would I come up with the idea of taking the 4 arba minim, the 4 species? Right? It could only come from God. And if you go on other pathways of trying to invent ways to serve God, you will end up idol worshiping the same way you were doing. Okay? It's not enough to just believe in general. But you have to serve Hashem according to the mitzvahs, according to God's guidance. And it's true. Before the Torah was given, before Moshe Rabbeinu, people served God according to how they thought. And what did they end up doing? Burning their kids. Part of their service is God. I'll give God the greatest gift that I have, my child. My firstborn child, I will burn him for God. Yeah, people can come up with all kinds of interesting things. And therefore, as much as you have great, intentions, it doesn't work that way. God tells you exactly how to serve Him, and let me give you a story, says the king. And the story is, imagine a fool who goes into the doctor's office. He went into the office of one of the most famous doctors, got dressed up as a doctor, and said, I'm open to business. And he was giving people medications. And he was killing people. Right? The same medications that in the past was healing people is now killing people. But Imis Damen, if it would happen, from all the people that came, some people died, some people were healed. He got lucky. Right? You do the American test, they have 4 answers, so out of 100 questions, you got 3 right. And then people think, oh, okay, it works. But they don't know. And this is the whole world of this, unfortunately, this the world of what they call alternative medicine. Very dangerous. A lot of people, they go to this alternative medicine instead of going to regular medicine. And then it's too late by the time they want to go to the real doctor. They kill people. Some people are healed. Oh, they have stories. They have stories of people that were healed. They were healed anyway. It could be it passes. Things pass. Things this. But they're killing people. Right? And therefore, it's so this is, and these are the fake Kabbalists. And you can't say, oh, well, sometimes they succeed. You can't bring an example here and there. And this is what the Kuzari says. This is what happened before Moshe Rabbeinu. This is exactly what happened before Moshe Rabbeinu. Zulati me'at miz'ar niftim menimusei kochavim etivim net yosim menimus Eloha Rabbi shochachim min masam v'simam siba toilet vehem atzmam menimusekim arbe. And this is exactly what happened. People were inventing religions. People were inventing all kinds of ways before, till Moshe Rabbeinu, till the Torah was given. Now, any spiritual desire, as we said, it could lead to belief in God, and it could lead into rebelling against God. What's the condition? Is it guided by God? Every Jew and non-Jew, since the Torah was given, the non-Jews have to get the 7 mitzvahs of Bnei Noach from the Jews, and the Jews have to take the 613 mitzvahs, and you cannot invent anything. Before Moshe Rabbeinu, people were walking in the dark, and they had no idea. They went to the astrologists and the all kinds of astronomers, and they said that this star is telling you to do this, right? And therefore, people cannot decide what is the true way to serve God. So basically, we're done the story. I want to tell you a beautiful story that will explain this, and the next week we start talking about how were religions created. Okay, before we get there, I want to just tell the story of Avram Avinu. The Midrash tells a story that there was a man, we'll call him Avram, Abe. His friends come and say, hey, let's go to a party. So he says, this party is amazing, his friends say to him. You go there, you can eat as much as you want. You can dance, there's music, there's food, there's free clothing, So this guy, Avram, says to his friends, listen, I was taught by my mother, you go to a party, first you say thank you to the host. Don't just go in and have a party. You first say thank you to the host, and then you enjoy yourself. What a nice person. He says, okay. So his friends say, oh, there's the host. You see the guy coming out of the kitchen holding a plate with glasses? That's the host, because he's coming from the other room. There he is. Okay, let's go. Say thank you. Thank you very much to the host. Avram goes to this guy holding the plate. Says, "Are you the host?" "No, I'm the waiter." "Oh." Next one comes out. Now most people say, who cares? Let's move on. Avram says, I can't till I find the host. I'm out of here. And he goes outside and he sits by a tree. And suddenly, next to the tree, there's somebody sitting there. He says, who are you? He says, I'm the host. You're such a nice person. Why aren't you there? Thank you. I've been looking for you. He says, why am I not there? I love giving. I love sharing. But I asked people just one thing. Don't go into my room, my bedroom, and don't go into my private drawer and take things out. And not only they didn't listen, they did it. And I'm so upset, I'm not going back to the party. So this guy Avram says, listen, I'm not like those people. I promise you. I want to be your friend, and I'm not like those people. Oh, you're not like those people? Very easy to talk. How do I know? Let's have a relationship. And you'll see, I will respect your boundaries. I will respect what you say. Time will tell. You're right. I can't say to you now that I'm going to be faithful, but trust and friendship takes time, and I'm willing to do it. What is the parable of this story? God created the world. We have everything here. Incredible world. And what did he say to us? Don't eat from one tree. Adam and Eve. One tree. What's the tree? Good and bad. Tree of knowledge, good and bad. Whatever I say is good, is good. Whatever I say is bad, is bad. We don't decide. God says don't murder. But what about mercy killing? In the hospitals today, an old guy says, I want to die. Okay, no problem. We'll kill you. Many times he feels like bad. He's a burden on people. Maybe it's a very fine line. Murdering. right? There's many, many levels. What we call humanism today. I'm smart. I can decide what's good and what's bad. Idol worshiping. You're serving the servants that come out. Avram Avinu comes and says, whatever God says is good, is good. Whatever God says is bad, is bad. I will trust it. Okay, Avram Avinu, are you ready to take it till the end? Yes. I say that it's good to kill your son. Hakedat Yitzchak. Do you really trust me? What's good is good and what's bad is bad? Then go and kill your son. Okay? Avram Avinu's highest level. And then what does Hashem say?
Stop.
Don't do it. Don't. Now, you're not killing your son because you love him and you care about him and you feel like it's the right thing. You're not killing God because I said not to. Because I said don't kill your son. I said don't murder, so you don't murder. Without a million questions. This is what we call humanism. I am smart, I decide what's good and bad, or does God decide? And that is ultimately, so this bowing down to the servants, we said, is unacceptable. And bowing down and deciding what's good and what's bad. I'll tell you a great story. There was once a rabbi, I heard him tell this story, that he said when he was a pilot, and he explained his story how he did tshuva. Today he's a Rosh Hashiva, and he explained the story what made him do tshuva. When they fly, there's something that happens to pilots called vertigo. It's a certain condition where in your ear, the weight and you don't know if you're up or you're down. And it happens to pilots, and that's how most pilots get killed, unfortunately, is because they don't know if they're up or down. But you have in the plane, you have a ball. One side is black and one side is white. And if the black is down, it means that's earth, and the white means it's the sky. And you have to learn, you can't go fly until you understand that no matter what you think and you know, you have to trust the ball. If the ball tells you that you're down, you're down. So he said he was spinning around in the sky, and at night there's stars, and there's also lights on the bottom, and it looks very similar. And he was sure 1,000,000% that the ball was wrong. And now he has to make a decision. He has a second to make a decision. Because if he pulls the wrong way, he goes straight into the ground. Is he going to trust the ball or going to trust himself? He knows 1,000,000% that he's right. And he's smart. And he knows that, and he knows that right now that the ball is wrong. Who is he going to trust? He said, thank God, he trusted the ball and he landed safely. And when he landed, he said, I realized that I can't trust my intellect, my mind. I can't trust how smart I think I am. If I would have trusted myself, and I was sure 1,000,000%, I would have been dead. And the same thing we said here. You cannot, so God created the world. And it can't be that he created the world and didn't tell us how to serve him. We have this passion, this desire to connect to that spirituality that exists in the world, the godliness in the world. And we said it could lead us to belief, to faith in God, or it could lead us to rebelling against God. The only question is, are we going to serve God based on the guidance that he gives us? Or are we going to serve God based on our desires, however we want to make up the way to serve him? And that is idol worshiping. This is how I feel like serving God. I feel like, standing on my head and chanting, blue, blue, blah, blah. That's how I think is how I'm going to serve him. No, we serve God based on his exact guidance. And so I bless us all that we should follow in the ways of our fathers, Avram Avinu, trust God, and take the guidance and get close to God and keep growing. And next week we start talking about how. So the question the king is going to ask now is, how was your religion created? How did you develop your religion? Because based on other religions, how they were created, how was the Jewish religion created? Is there any human involvement? Is there, like, how did it grow? From where did it appear? That's what we're going to study next week. Hazak